Welcome to this presentation about the adolescent brain and what's going on inside your head right now. Today we're going to learn about the changes your brain is going through as you go from ages 12 to about 25. If you remember from yesterday's lesson, our brains are fully grown by the time we reach early adolescence, which for females is about 11 and a half and males is 14 and a half. But even though our brains are fully grown, they're not yet mature, meaning they're not fully adult yet. They don't become fully adult or mature until about age 25. You might be wondering, well, how does my brain mature then? Bear with me, I'll explain it here. If you look at the top picture, you'll see a brain of a young child with lots of green, some red and yellow, and then as you go down the line, you'll see an adult brain with lots of blues and purples. This is showing the decline of something called gray matter. This is part of your brain that's responsible for thinking and processing. Gray matter starts to decline at age 13 in a process called pruning. Basically what pruning is the parts of your brain that get used the least get removed. So the phrase goes, use it or lose it. In the bottom picture, you see a neuron. This is a part of the brain that helps communicate with other parts of the brain. And during adolescence, something called a myelin sheath gets laid down between the neurons. And what this does is it increases the connection between them, literally electrical impulses between them, that allows them to communicate better. Since gray matter is found in all parts of the brain, we're going to take some time to actually look at the major parts of the brain, because each part has a very unique function, and there's some key things that are going on in your brain right now during adolescence. The first parts of the brain that we'll focus on include the cerebellum, which is found at the lower back of the brain skull area. The cerebellum is responsible for your motor skills, so your balance, your coordination, and it has some role in also the interpretation of your thoughts and feelings. And then there's our brainstem. It monitors things we don't even think about most of the time. Are we awake? Are we sleeping? What's our blood pressure? Our heart rate? Are we breathing? Again, things we don't think about much, but we definitely need. The next part is our limbic system, otherwise known as our emotional brain. And our limbic system has two primary parts. These are going to be a big focus for us in this week and the coming weeks. The first thing, the amygdala, that weird A-looking word. The amygdala is responsible for our emotional response, especially to things that make us fearful or angry. It's a very reactive part of our brain. This is going to play a big role in how you feel your emotions right now as an adolescent. The other part of the limbic system is called the hippocampus. Another small part of the brain. It's really important, especially for functions like memory and for helping to regulate or help control the functions of the amygdala. We're going to be coming back to these two parts of the brain a lot. The final part of the brain that we're going to focus on is the cortex. And specifically, we're going to spend a lot of time talking and thinking about your prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain where thinking, reflecting, planning, making decisions, and self-awareness takes place. And note this is the part of the brain that is most under construction during adolescence. You're not born with it. You actually have to develop it. You may be thinking, great, prefrontal cortex, amygdala, hippocampus, brainstem, cerebellum. Yeah, how do I remember all of this? I can't even remember what to do my homework every night. Don't worry, I've got an easy way for you to remember all of this. In order to remember how the brain works, we're going to use a simple hand model. To do this, hold up one of your hands in the air next to your face. Where your wrist is, this is where the base of your skull is. The brainstem is your palm. Now, if you think of your thumb as your limbic system, the hippocampus and amygdala, if you fold your thumb into your palm, this is kind of where it's located in the brain. It's in a central location. Then, our cortex, or the upper part of our brain, are our fingers. And if you bend your fingers over the top of your thumb, this is kind of how the brain is organized. The cortex goes over the top And the prefrontal cortex specifically is where your fingernails are currently located. So if you hold your hand up to your face, this is kind of where these parts of the brain are. Your prefrontal cortex is behind your eyes and forehead. This hand model is something that's going to help us understand how our brain works in the coming slides. All these parts of your brain sound separate, but one of the primary goals of adolescence is to integrate or connect all these different parts together. And remember, until integration is complete, until all these parts of the brains know how to work together, your brain's under construction. So I'm going to ask you to do something. Be patient and kind to yourself, because if you do this, maybe others will do the same for you. And before we end this part of the presentation, I've got great news for you. You can influence how much your brain integrates and matures. It's not just up to nature. And here's how. If you increase awareness of how your brain works, that helps. If you do exercises to link your emotions, how you feel, to logical thought, how you think, that helps. Increasing your ability to self-regulate, which is the ability to calm down when you're experiencing strong emotions, helps. And using parts of the brain you want to keep helps. Remember that whole pruning thing? If you use this part of your brain, you're not going to lose it. And the best news of all, some of the activities that we have planned in homeroom may help you do these things. Your amygdala overloaded yet? I think it's time to take a brain break before we continue learning more about the adolescent brain.